Social media without seeing one of these guys. This is the Flippers. A few months ago it was practically
where visual images persist or can come back long after the stream. Professor from the University of Bergen and a PhD images, sounds, voices, tactile sensations, senses strongly correlated with game, at least some degree. EMG devices that used to pause and then pull, which is a compilation and analysis of multiple peer-reviewed studies, was done on a frustrating game of Tetris, imposed an average time. Most old.
This block was first added in 2019, but unless you play RuneScape, Fletch... This block was first added in 2019, but unless you play RuneScape, fletching is likely something you haven't seen, because they said they had a great idea for adding this to the next update, but that simply hasn't come yet. However, the year after, they did include the random idea of the target block, which feels a lot like they had an archery update planned, they simply had to cancel. Of course, that's just speculation, but we can confirm the same thing happened to a combat update, and just about every drop has room for expansion that simply hasn't come. Development has very clearly changed, and today I want to talk about what is holding back massive and popular feature ideas and why updates have changed so much, because it's not clear, while getting to the bottom of a question that Mojang no doubt struggles with: what does the end of Minecraft updates look like? Well, hello, I'm AbYaxToyCat, and just like a fletching table, this video comes to you in 6 parts, and so let's get to the start. Minecraft is an absolute mess of spaghetti code. This isn't criticism, it's just the facts. In fact, it's something that Kaplan, the first employee at Mojang, actually says proudly. He says one of the things he learned working with Notch is that as Mojang grew and new coders joined the team, there were complaints about old code, shortcuts, and bad technical decisions, but his response was usually, without those decisions, none of us would be here. There probably wouldn't even be a Minecraft if everything had been done the correct way from the start. A shipped, imperfect system beats a perfect system that never makes it into players' hands, and I really like that Tommaso Cecchi, one of the earliest Pocket Edition employees, responded by saying, once Notch said, but that bad code, let me hire you to fix it, and then he was enlightened. This really is something that opened my eyes to the difference in how Mojang works now, because it's not a secret. Jeb has actively come out saying that he wanted to remove pigs being struck by lightning, and even going further as to say that Mojang wouldn't add the creeper today.
If you would follow the rules that we have today, we would probably not add the creeper.
This is a wild claim, I think it's fair to say, but it's the same reason that the end is barren and April Fool's updates tend to be bigger than regular ones. It's because this attitude doesn't hold in the company, and instead game design is the focus. That is why, even though Jeb thinks that lightning is gimmicky, he hasn't necessarily changed it, because the old attitude, when they were adding lightning or creepers, was to simply say, can we do it? And then work out how to make it good from there. But now the attitude is game design first, is it a good idea? And then work out how to make it from there. This is obviously a less efficient process, and it's not one that is a secret. Jeb has a game design book. He brings it out all of the time. This isn't some grand secret I'm letting you in on, but instead it is the way that they've decided to make the game more sustainable, and that's kind of what the drop system is all about. Adding fewer features, but complete features, but from entirely different sections of the game, and that's why so many things feel like missed opportunities, because they'd rather have missed opportunities, features that feel like they should be in an update but are not, than end up with content that is entirely unworkable, but that they're stuck with nonetheless, like all of these old examples. What's crazy here though is the fact that they might just be right, because Minecraft is bloated. Echo shards. I could end the chapter right there, but for those who haven't heard of them, these are a crafting ingredient added in the ancient cities that you can find when going to the various chests, and you can combine them together to make exactly one recipe, the recovery compass. They did the same with the heavy core in 2024. This is used to make the mace, which is really fun. You can smash people in their face, but it's also just one recipe, and you already have the other ingredients, the breeze rod, by the time you would ever get the heavy core, making it seem a bit questionable that it even exists, that's for sure. And ultimately, we therefore have to say, why does Minecraft keep adding one-time crafting recipes? There is an argument that the early days, sticks can be used for both tools and to make ladders, or string can be used for both fishing rods and bows. Basically, every crafting ingredient was meant to be used multiple times, and there's an argument to be made that modern Minecraft has this same idea, they just haven't worked out what the second use is for the Echo Shard here, or indeed for the Heavy Core. Now, I actually kind of like the idea that Minecraft is building all of these updates with future extensibility in mind. I like the idea that any item added is going to get lots of more uses in the future, kind of like copper did last year, and this is actually something that is kind of compelling until you see what's happened over the years, because we've seen not lots of revisiting of old updates, but instead a bigger part of them going through entirely new ideas, and the best place to go into this would be combat. The mace was the first melee-only combat weapon to be added to the game in 14 years since the sword and axe were re-added to the game in 2010, and then after that, instead of, expanding on the heavy core or anything to do with it, instead the next year they added the copper sword and axe, like I mentioned, but they also added the spear. Now the spear and mace are very similar weapons in terms of the close to infinite damage potential that's based on momentum towards the target. It's just the spear is horizontal versus the mace is vertical. But what's interesting is the fact that there is no link between how you craft them. There's not a heavy core in the spear, it's just another weapon like the sword, making the mace kind of look like you're an idiot for using it, because in most circumstances, the spear is less dangerous, easier to get, and honestly, therefore the better weapon for many people's choices, because you don't have to risk your entire life to use it. This is the weird problem that I think Minecraft has. They love to make weird new pathways to brand new branches of content, but then when it comes to actually investing in their current branches, they seem to be less interested. And I think a great example of this would be Calcite. It was added to the game as part of the Caves and Cliffs, but to this day, you still can't make stairs and slabs. There's not any good reason, you just can't do it. Or indeed, I think the drop system is a great example of them doing this to the extreme, because there are so many updates that feel like they're really hinting towards a new feature, but that part of the game isn't being revisited again, and so good luck seeing that. I mean, one of my favorite examples to use, a really old one here, is horse armor. This is a weird type of armor that was added alongside the horses. Now, what's weird about it is, unlike regular armor, you can't craft it, you have to find it in the wild. Unlike regular armor, gold is better than iron for some reason. Why does gold protect horses better than humans? I don't know. And also, unlike regular armor, it can't be enchanted. And even weirder than that, you can only put it on specifically horses and zombie horses. And so if you want to put it on a mule, or indeed, as they later added, a skeleton horse, you can't do that. And when it finally came time to update mounts, when they did a drop exclusively dedicated to that, did they make the horse armor enchantable or cooler or more interesting in some way? Nope. Every single mob besides the zombie horse in that update does not accept the horse horse armor, and even more interesting, they added nautiluses, which specifically have their own variant. So instead of solving the problem of giving more uses to the armor, they actually doubled the number you find in the wild. I say doubled, but they added copper and netherite, so they had just about tripled the number of weird items you'd find in your world, and in exchange, the benefit... So they had just about tripled the number of weird items you'd find in your world, and in exchange, the benefit is... Actually, I'm still kind of lost on that one. But yeah, instead of adding to existing features, Mojang has become very prone to adding new ones. Instead of just having a cure for the regular ghast to make it a happy ghast, there's already curing and already ghast in the game, they added an entirely new mob that just looks like the old one. And indeed, when it came time to add a brand new red block for the Sulphur Caves, they decided to make it Cinnabar, and in response to feedback, made it look a lot like Netherrack, because that's what people want. And to be fair, Mojang are just people-pleasing here, you can say. Obviously, people want to have more blocks. They're more excited about more blocks. They'll buy the game more based on more blocks. But also, it does seem like existing features are being left in the dust. When I was trying to find the counter case for the sake of actually researching this, the best I could find was probably the goat horn. You see, when they added that to the game, there's 8 variants rather than 1 that you can use in 8 ways for whatever reason. They also added 8 copper goat horns, and to be fair, they did actually remove those second categories later, but it's very rare that they remove features in Minecraft now. It's very rare they update existing features, and that is a new Minecraft thing, but then it raises the question... No, but also kind of yes. I mean, how can you not look at old Minecraft screenshots and say that things were just better or at least simpler back then? Well, I think that this is an undetachable argument from Notch versus Jeb, who is a better steward of Minecraft. Well, I think this is a tied argument because Notch only led Minecraft for around 2 to 3 years, and although they were 2 of the most important years, I can't help but immediately say that obviously more of what we know as Minecraft has been added in the 15 years since. But actually, is that true? I think as weird, as insane as it is to say, there is a real argument to be had here that actually so much... I don't know what happened there, but I will open my inventory to make it better. Okay, so this is beta 1.7, to be very clear here, not 1.8. I've learned that in the Minecraft beta community, 1.8 is heresy and 1.7 is God. But while we look at this version that many people go back to nostalgically, you can see that interestingly, much of what kind of represents the aesthetic of Minecraft was already in here. Whether that's the classic punch a tree game loop, whether that's the terrain, which is mostly formed of, water that looks like this and grass that looks like this, even though there's been texture changes and massive gameplay changes, swimming for one, running for another, healing and armor, all of these systems have gone through massive changes. Interestingly enough, I think the core part of what makes Minecraft great kind of stayed the same. And that is building. The whole reason that you play Minecraft is to take blocks from all over the place and put them together to build your base. Even though there are so many more mechanics now, I would say that 98% of development time has happened in Minecraft post-Notch. And even though the early code was buggy, there's bugs I encountered just in my 4 minutes of game time, there are so many bugs and there are so many problems, and the code was deliberately just shipped for the sake of getting it out there. This is still part of what makes people love Minecraft because it has the core features that they love, and it does so in a way that is mostly kind of good. I think this is the difference between the Notch and the Jeb eras of Minecraft. I think that in the early days, it was more accepted. Whether it should be or not is a different question. It was more expected that when features came out, they'd be rough around the edges, whereas now I think bugs in a new update simply aren't accepted. This is a huge change that developers have to adjust to, not just making sure that QA and making sure that things go out well is done better. There are huge lead times for updates now, but also there is the second area of, given that so many people now have nostalgia for that old Minecraft that was built, they have to be very careful about altering it. When they added new structures to the world, for example, the 2 most recent being the Ancient City and the Trail Chambers, they're both found deep below your world, and if you just want to go building, you'll never actually interact with them. This is a core gameplay loop that Mojang really doesn't want to mess with, and it means that all of their decisions have to be not only done to a higher standard in terms of game design, but also kind of done in a way that if you don't interact with them, it will be fine. This is why there has not been a new end-level dimension update since 2011, and this is a massive change, which seems like it is just me saying, well, as you can see, one Swedish man is clearly much better at leading Minecraft than another Swedish man. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have super strong opinions on them as people or how they really lead Minecraft, but instead I'd like to explain why it is that they do lead it in very different ways, and it can be best explained in how they both took over the game. You see, Notch led Minecraft for those first few years, literally founding the game as its only employee, but what's weird about it that you might not realize is it's not his first game, it's just his first game to pick up any steam. You see, if we look at this, the Intra Clinic has put together a full archive of all the games that we have any knowledge of him making. So many games exist, some of which you can see the Minecraft influence in, and some of which you probably can't. But Minecraft actually was not Notch's first game. Most of the games that Notch launched probably didn't benefit from a massive bout of bug fixing because no one was there to play them to really disregard those bugs. I think that Minecraft was created from this idea of how do we make a game that people will be interested in, and thankfully they were, but to actually make it good enough to hit the mainstream was all about adding things quickly and maybe getting some wrong. You know, in other words, always be shipping, to quote Kaplan there. That was the requirement for Minecraft to get anywhere, whereas Jeb took over a Minecraft that was already successful, that had already had a full launch and had already sold tens of millions of copies, and so Jeb's goal was not to make a game from nothing, but instead was to steer the ship in the right direction. Part of this meant inevitably fixing the bugs that Notch and everyone who has worked for him concedes were put in there. Part of this is about fixing the spaghetti code, but also part of this is about how do you make sure that you add to Minecraft with things like horses in a way that doesn't feel like you're just adding mods or just adding entirely incomprehensible things to the game. And so I think what we're really seeing here, the debate between Notch and Jeb, the debate between how Minecraft does things now and how they used to do things, is kind of the debate between explore and exploit, or, if you will, evolution and revolution. Imagine you're on a deserted island, a survival island if you will, and you know for a fact that there's a chest about 6 hours away from you that every single day restocks itself with a single piece of beef. However, to go to that chest takes all of your day. It's a 12-hour walk and it technically feeds you, but you're only just about surviving. Now, to go to that chest every day would be to exploit what you already know, to, in other words, consistently continue with the evolution of what you can already do. Maybe you get there a bit faster, but if you want to really go exploring, you might find that there's another chest closer by that has better food or more food. You might find a tree with some berries. This is what exploration is all about. Sometimes you need to do what you know works well. You need to grind, you need to exploit, and sometimes you need to go and explore and find new things that might work better. Now imagine that you are the CEO of Mojang and you have full control over the studio. I mean, maybe you got malnourished from your trip on the survival island and your make-a-wish is to go work at Mojang and they agreed for some reason. Look, the circumstances are that you are in charge of all Minecraft development. Everyone agrees with what you say. Now you have two choices. Your first is to explore, to create brand new ideas from scratch that are incredible. This is what is tempting, but what's weird is, take the creaking for example. This is a crazy mob. He spawns in a weird biome and he has unlimited health, and like a weeping angel, he doesn't move when you're looking at him, and also there's a whole brand new block source that he gets. There's lots of wonderful things we can say about it, but at the exact same time, he's vanished from most people's memories. The most recent features people love would be the happy ghast, or before that, the frogs, I guess. And so these are the features that people would be far more interested in you working on, and so you could exploit what you already have, but most of what you already have isn't worth exploiting. Every single time you go exploring, you're going to end up with so many ideas left on the cutting room floor, because ultimately, that's how it's always going to be. If you go exploring in the survival island, you're going to spend most of your exploration time finding nothing, but it's all about waiting until you do find that perfect spot. And this is a tricky argument to make, I think. I think it's a very risky one to make because Minecraft is naturally a bit more conservative now because they've got more to lose. They're in a natural position of doing basically nothing works out well for them. And so in a way, even though it's adding a lot of bloat, even though it's adding all sorts of problems, there's a really good argument that says, yeah, Minecraft should just keep creating new content that leads basically nowhere, because eventually they're going to find their next incredible thing this way, in the same way that Fortnite spent years doing very, very little until they added Battle Royale, which changed everything. Minecraft is looking for their Fortnite Battle Royale. I don't like it when I put it that way, but I guess to bring this all back together, let's try and get back to the titular question here. When will updates end? Minecraft 1.0 was the full release of Minecraft, and it was the last time that you could arguably say there was an update that could reasonably be followed by nothing and still leave a complete game. That's because it added the end dimension, and it was the full release of the game, but they did keep going with updates because it was profitable. They wanted a live service, they wanted to keep exploiting the very profitable game that they'd made, and so we've seen 21 full updates and a trillion drops since then. But here's the interesting question: when will those updates come to an end? What will the next endgame update look like? Well, an easier question to answer is when will that happen? And as absurd as this seems, we actually have an answer from Microsoft. They did an interview not long after they bought Minecraft, and they said something that, I'll be honest, I ridiculed at the time. I thought the idea of Minecraft being a good investment was ludicrous, and so I thought that when they said that Minecraft would go on for 100 years, that was basically not worth believing. Yet here we are 10 years later, and genuinely the game is still moving from strength to strength. They're still working out major new rebrands. They just added multiplayer to Java. They're just working on an entirely new update system where there's multiple updates a year again. There are massive changes that are happening that are arguably bringing life back to the brand, even if not for some of the most hardcore fans, but the casual people who will return in its future. So when will the last Minecraft update be? Well, 100 years from 2016 is 2116, and so the 16.0 update or 116.0 update will be the final one. Obviously, that ignores the fact that Minecraft will change their update systems a bunch of times by then. It'll be the 7QH.creeper update. But what's interesting is the fact that I think that it's not just the question of how long Minecraft will last, but it's the fact that you can't even really predict it. I mean, sure, Minecraft could go on for 100 years, but if the game's successful, would they really stop? Have you seen TV shows where they don't know if they're going to be cancelled or not, and so they have to leave on a cliffhanger, but then the next series they immediately just resolve it, and it feels a bit weird. The same thing happened with Terraria, actually. Terraria's developers have been trying to stop developing Terraria for years, but they just can't quit. That is right, the final update to Terraria has been coming many times in a row now. Something really interesting that I thought about that is they said that when the demand is there, it's really hard to argue they shouldn't make the game. I mean, why go and make something else that may be successful when you know this definitely is successful? Even though I've been talking about Minecraft drops like they're all kind of being explorative, at some point by taking such small steps here, there, and everywhere, effectively Minecraft is hedging its bets. They're guaranteeing that the core mechanics of the game, the building that people love, is always going to stay more or less the same. After all, according to Jib's rule game